for honor.
Let's do it. This is the second set. Very strong opening set from JangBi, I have to say. He's kind of curiously taking the role of fantasy in this series by making his opponent adapt to his strategy, which is what fantasy likes to do a lot. I know there's some people who said that, well, since JangBi beat Flash, he was going to have an easier time against fantasy, but Flash and fantasy are two very, very different players. Flash, when he goes into a game, he doesn't usually go in with a game plan. He's talked about this in interviews before, but he rarely goes in with a set game plan. He just scouts and scans and adapts to his opponent. Fantasy is the complete opposite. Fantasy always goes in with a game plan, and he makes his opponent adapt to his strategy, and he takes control of the game that way. And that's exactly what JangBi did in that last set. Throwing fantasy off his game. And it's a very interesting contrast to last season's final, when fantasy absolutely took control of the games against Stork, made Stork adapt to his strategy, and Stork was not able to adapt. So very interesting contrast, and I think that this is going to be JangBi's game plan for this series, is probably these aggressive, strange type of builds to keep fantasy adapting to him. Could be wrong, but this is going to be on La Mancha. Let's see what the guys have in store for us now. What do you have up your sleeves? We'll find out. Except, okay, down at the 5 o'clock position in yellow is Fantasy, down 1. He's not used to this. Well, since the 2008 finals at least, against Stork, because Stork took the first 2 games, then lost the next 2, and then it came down to a 5th set, very epic 5th set. But up at the 2 o'clock position in red again, is JangBi. Let me give you a couple more facts about this series. I should have mentioned this on the last game on Pathfinder, but before that last game, Fantasy had never lost on Pathfinder. Not one single loss. Now granted, he had only had 1 game against a Protoss player, and that was Stork in the finals. So I guess it's kind of understandable that we might see him lose on the map, because we only seen 1. Well, yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's very interesting, because last season, Fantasy, as I said, he was going for those wacky builds to make Stork adapt to him, and on Pathfinder he did drop strategy, a very, very vicious drop strategy. No 12 Nexus this time from JangBi, putting on his gateway first. But that drop strategy just completely crushed Stork. It was kind of embarrassing to watch, honestly. As a Stork fan, I know Stork is better than that. I can make excuses, of course, like Stork had just broken up with his girlfriend the week before, which is true. Or, I don't know, he wasn't prepared, didn't have time to prepare. Yeah, he had time, I guess, but those are just excuses. It was Stork's fault that he wasn't prepared for that type of play from Fantasy. Fantasy always goes for weird, wacky stuff in a final. Always, always, always. So let's see what Fantasy does this time around. He lost his chance to do the wacky drop strategy thing. I think it's going to be a 14cc from Fantasy. I don't think he put down his barracks yet. I think he's doing for some hyper-expanding, just like JangBi did in the last set. But the Cybernetics core is coming up already for JangBi on the other side. JangBi's going to scout Fantasy in the very last position, and Fantasy's going to have a booming economy by the time he gets there, too. Well, not really. His command center is not going to be done yet, but you know what I mean. The barracks coming up at the front, and the probe is going to try to take out the SCV that's building the barracks. There's JangBi skirting around with that scouting probe. Fantasy hasn't even gone out to scout yet, so if JangBi had gone for a rush strategy, he would really have Fantasy against the ropes right now, but he did not really go for a rush strategy. He went for his gateway first, and he's working on his Dragoon range from that 1 gateway, and he's probably going to expand soon. Since he only has 1 gateway, he's working on his gas to tech up very quickly, but now JangBi is in. He sees the strategy that Fantasy is going for. He's probably going to start to panic a little bit, because Fantasy is going to have a very booming economy in this thing if he can't push the front and get something done here. But there are the SCVs already transferring over. Haven't really seen anything yet from JangBi popping out of the gateway. Yeah, I haven't seen anything from him, actually. He probably has one Dragoon out there somewhere, since he was working on his Dragoon range on the other side. There's the bunker from Fantasy at the front. And let's see here. Nothing for JangBi. What the hell is JangBi doing? What are you doing, JangBi? JangBi might be going for another ridiculous strategy here. Oh no. Don't tell me. Is it a Stargate? Oh, Citadel of Adun from JangBi. What the hell? Going for the Citadel of Adun. I did not expect this at all. I thought he was going to go for one base carriers or something ridiculous like that. But what is JangBi's plan? This is insane. He is definitely going for another insane build, but I'm just not sure what it's going to be yet. We'll find out soon. There's the factory coming up now for Fantasy on the other side. Oh, man, it is going to be a crazy series. I can tell you that right now. From that first game and the way this game is going so far, wow, this is going to be nuts. But there is finally one Dragoon at the front. Finally pumped a unit. Go JangBi! He has a unit. And let's see if this Dragoon can keep away the scouting information. That's going to be crucial, actually, to keep away the scout. The scout is kept away. But Fantasy did see that there wasn't a second base going. The Templar Archives from JangBi. This is either going to be a Dark Templar push or early Arbiters. I think it's going to be Arbiters because I just haven't seen many gateways out yet for JangBi. Oh, man. Either way, this is going to be completely insane from JangBi. He is finally putting down his second base. Going to need, yeah, you need an economy to support some things there, JangBi. But he is trying to get down this bunker at the front. The tank should be out soon with the siege mode ready to go. So I think that Fantasy is going to be okay as far as that goes. The second gateway coming down for JangBi. So this probably is a Dark Templar push from him. He doesn't really have anything else to supplement the Dark Templar. He doesn't have a drop ships, well, shuttle to ferry over his Dark Templar or anything. So possibly just going to push the front with this thing. There's a Nexus coming up. The Observer's still looking around JangBi's base. Looks like they're as fascinated as I am. Just looking around like, what? What are you doing, man? Stargate! So this is an early Arbiter build from JangBi and Dark Templar. This is completely all in from JangBi. He is teching up the entire tree from two bases. He doesn't even have his second base up yet. But here comes the Dark Templar. So I think he's going to try to snipe as many units as he can with the Dark Templar and then go into Arbiters. Wow, this is going to be nuts. Now let's see if Fantasy's going to have anything to say about this. He's building a turret at the front, I think, but I think the Dark Templar might be able to snipe this Dark Templar skirting by. I'm not sure if, yeah, Fantasy sees it, sees a glitch on the map. He's going to try to get away with his tanks, I think. He's trying to get around the turrets, trying to build additional turrets, too. That's why he had kind of a lapse of micro from his units. He's trying to build turrets next to his main. But JangBi's really got to get in there. He's got to take out the SCVs that are building the turrets to allow those Dark Templar to get the Arbiter Tribunal coming up now from JangBi. Sorry, but there's JangBi trying to take out as many units as he can, but he was within sight range of the turrets. Trying to take out the turrets again. He uses the Dragoons to help himself out, but he does. Fantasy has no detection at the front whatsoever. He does have mines though, so if the mines drag into the Dark Templar, he's got to try to lure the Dark Templar into the mines. But either way, the Academy finally coming up for Fantasy. He's going to work on comsat stations, because right now he's relying on the turrets and the mines to protect himself. He's getting pretty good mine surrounds of these Dark Templar, but wasn't able to drag into that one. And now JangBi is preparing on the other side for vulture harassment, just a complete pylon wall off inside of his natural expansion. Fantasy's going to skirt away from there and try to bide his time and probably try to attack that again soon. I saw him lay a mine out there earlier, but yeah, early Arbiters. It's one of the earliest ways you could possibly get Arbiters, and so JangBi's going to have an Arbiter out soon. Wow. So off of that Dark Templar harassment, he didn't get too much damage done with the Dark Templar. Probably not nearly as much as he was planning on getting done. Yeah, he just wasn't quite able to pick off all the SCVs that were building the turrets. So he got caught between the turret sight range, and really, that kind of shut down his build pretty quickly. The robotics facility up now for JangBi. No telling what he's going to do now. He's going to have an Arbiter out, I know that. But other than that, JangBi could really branch off in any direction. So he's hanging outside with his Dark Templar, trying to find if Fantasy is going to push out soon with troops. And Fantasy might have caught on to the fact there might be a Dark Templar up there, because he's going down to a very strange position, possibly to take his third, though. He might be getting on the defense for his third base at the 6 o'clock position, because I saw he was building a turret out there and getting up more factories now. So yeah, a lot of gateways out now for JangBi, and it looks like he's going to work on his third base soon. Yeah, there wasn't even a mine laid up there, curiously enough. I thought Fantasy would lay a mine up there for sure, but no, the 12 o'clock position is going to come up, and Fantasy doesn't have anything to say about it. But Fantasy, it seems, is playing defensively himself, and he might even be floating over with a command center. Something is floating at the 6 o'clock position, so it probably is his command center. Arbiter! The Arbiter is out now. And, yeah, if you thought Fantasy was having trouble with detection before, yeah, he's going to have a lot of trouble now. But luckily, he sees the cloaked units, so he knows the Arbiter is out. He knows JangBi's strategy now, so he can adapt to this and start to put down his comsat stations and some more turrets, so he can at least see the units that are going to pressure his front soon. Yeah, 12 o'clock position coming up now for JangBi. And, yeah, I can't wait to see what he does with this Arbiter. He's either going to go for a very quick recall or try to stasis the troops near the 6 o'clock position and take the game that way. He has a couple of choices right now. He is putting down another pylon wall. The Arbiter hanging outside of the 6 o'clock position, not near any troops either. So this could be a recall, actually, from JangBi. Yeah, but that Arbiter, I'm not sure what that Arbiter is doing. He's just kind of biding its time down there at the 6 o'clock position. Yeah, kind of an awkward probe transfer there. But I think we're going to see a recall from JangBi. Yeah, he's going to group up a lot of troops, possibly go for the recall at the 6 o'clock position. That's the most logical place he could recall. But he's going to be dealing with a bunch of troops on the low ground. As soon as Fantasy sees this, if this is a recall, the Arbiter is kind of hanging around the troops right now. It could be going in for some stasis of these units, but the tanks rather are set so far apart, I don't think stasis would really do anything for JangBi. But he does have his Arbiter still out there alone, so Fantasy will not find it. It's a couple of Goliaths just looking around for the Arbiter to snipe. Finds the Observer, kills the Observer, so he probably knows that something wacky is coming his way. He scans the middle, trying to find the troops that are out there, but the troops at the natural expansion right now for JangBi, all of his troops are at home. And yeah, he's going for the recall down at the 6 o'clock position. All of his units are ready. No, he's going for the main, actually, going straight for that main. Fantasy sees this coming, has everything there. I don't think this was a complete recall from JangBi. I don't think he got all of his troops in there, but he got a pretty substantial amount, dropping some units from the shuttle. He's got to get close to those tanks, though, with those Zealots. The Dragoons kind of back here picking off the armories. If you could pick off the armories, that would be some pretty decent damage. Not quite as much damage as you need to do to justify the early Arbiter, but still quite a bit of damage. All the Zealots go down. It looks like this is cleaned up by Fantasy. Yeah, this little strategy was shut down pretty quickly by Fantasy. He knew exactly what was coming his way, and he shut it down pretty promptly. And now Fantasy can move out with his troops, because he's taken down pretty much JangBi's entire army, and JangBi is working on macroing up at the 12 o'clock position. So now would be an opportune moment for Fantasy to attack, if he has enough tanks to do it anyway. As a couple of cannons being built by JangBi on the other side to keep away the Vulture harassment. Surprisingly, not much Vulture harassment in this game. JangBi's done a good job of pylon walling off from the Vulture harassment, so we haven't seen much harassment from the Vulture terrorist. Let's see what else JangBi can do. He does still have recall, so he could definitely go back inside the main, push his luck as far as that goes. But now he's working on his fourth base up at the 10 o'clock position. Fantasy keeping that science vessel around for the EMP of the Arbiter. Yeah, he's keeping that around, trying to find another vigilante Arbiter, trying to go in there and recall some more troops. Let's see if JangBi will do that anytime soon. He Yeah, I don't think he's going to have the energy quite yet for a recall. A lot of energy for that recall, but Fantasy is going to be prepared either way. Laid a bunch of mines around. He has the turrets all over the place to take out this Arbiter, and a huge tank line for the defense of the 6 o'clock position. So Fantasy is really getting his economy cooking now, which JangBi is going to try to do soon, but this is pretty risky. He's taking so many bases. I think he's trying to take the natural expansion of the 10 o'clock position as well. Wow. Very risky from JangBi. This could be shut down extremely quickly by these Vulture. The Vulture harassment could definitely just wipe those bases out at the 10 o'clock position. But let's see when Fantasy decides to attack. He knows he's dealing with a bunch of troops from JangBi just because JangBi was so all in earlier. And now he's trying to transition into a macro build, which is going to be pretty difficult for him. But JangBi is trying to move up to the 12 o'clock position because the pylon wall being broken. Fantasy gets by the pylon wall, going straight for that 12 o'clock position to pick off some probes. There's the Vulture terrorist in action. Yeah, a little bit of terrorism from Fantasy in this game. So doing a pretty good job picking off everything at the 12 o'clock position. What the hell? I see a little loading screen on my video right now. But it looks like the video is back. Wow. Sorry about that. So the 12 o'clock position pretty much cleaned out of probes. Yeah, the probes were forced to run away, and I think about 5 or 6 were sniped. Oh, a lot more probably right now from Fantasy. Yeah, Fantasy going over. He finds more probes out there. Fantasy, what are you doing? Fantasy finally catching up to those probes. Yeah, he just bypassed the probes to lay some mines around. Looks like he wasn't quite paying attention. But JangBi was transferring over to the 10 o'clock bases. Yeah, he has the 10 o'clock and the 10 o'clock natural, trying to jumpstart those at the exact same time. Extremely risky, and yeah, Fantasy's going to push out soon. In fact, he's pushing out right now with all of his tanks. This is going to be tough. No doubt about it. This is going to be extremely tough for JangBi. Hopefully he researched stasis from that Arbiter Tribunal, because if he doesn't have stasis, I don't see any way he's going to be able to fight back this gigantic push from Fantasy. Fantasy has 2 science vessels at the front for EMP of the Arbiters. The Arbiter kind of bypassing everything, flying over the minefield, though, so Fantasy, if he was paying attention that time, he would have seen the Arbiter and know exactly where to go with his science vessels. But it looks like this might be another recall, actually. That might be a very bad decision, though, to recall at the 6 o'clock position, take all of his troops out of the field to protect his bases. Yeah, man, JangBi is playing on the edge today. Extremely risky play from him, putting his entire army down at the 6 o'clock position, harassing that, because now he has nothing to protect the rest of his bases. But he's taken so many bases, he can afford to lose 1, maybe 2. To take out the bases from Fantasy. So he completely guts the 6 o'clock position. There was a stasis of the science vessels at the front, but Fantasy is completely crushing the natural expansion, just going up there with so many tanks. And it looks like he's going to be able to take out the 12 o'clock as well, and the main is in jeopardy. So really, JangBi, he's got to get something done here. Taking out the 6 o'clock is not quite enough. He's got to push the natural expansion now and start kind of a base trading attack. Force Fantasy to try to take down his bases while he takes down Fantasy's bases, because I don't see any other way he can do it. But he does have a pretty booming economy for the moment. There's I Love UV in the audience looking on, the great mentor to Fantasy. But the natural expansion goes down, and I think the 12 o'clock position is going to go down soon as well. JangBi's going to have to get some excellent Zealot bombs on that contain at his natural expansion to take that out, because Fantasy is actually moving down the map right now to clean up the troops that were pressuring him. Yeah, he's going to take out JangBi's entire army in the middle. And things are not looking very good for JangBi right now, because he really doesn't have any units. Yeah, you kind of need units in StarCraft to fight back your opponent. StarCraft 101 for you new peeps. But let's see, the Vultures taking down everything. Tons of Vultures there. That'll clean up the Zealots, no problem. And now Fantasy finds the 10 o'clock position, just crawling in with tanks. And if this Arbiter can't get it done, oh, Mind Drags 2 into JangBi. His Zealots go down. That's going to hurt him a lot. He desperately needs those Zealots to take out the tanks. Dematrixed Vulture at the 10 o'clock position, just to kind of rub it in, I think. Might have been attacked by a Dragoon or something there, but the 10 o'clock position is in jeopardy. I think the 12 o'clock was gone. The natural expansion is gone. So basically JangBi only has his main and the 10 o'clock. He played extremely risky in this game, and it looks like he rolled the dice one too many times. If you were playing blackjack, yeah, kind of drew the king there. I have a 14. Hit me. Oh, damn it. Or if he gets a 21, hit me. I like to live dangerously. You know, an Austin Powers reference for you. But here comes the shuttle. Going to try to drop on top of those tanks. Oh, the tanks not taken down. That would have been epic if he could have dropped a Zealot inside that big grouping of tanks on the low ground. But looks like that's not to be. Not to be at all. Fantasy's economy is not great, but it's certainly better than JangBi's is right now. Stork looking on, my favorite player, looking very concerned for JangBi, as he should be, because Fantasy still has all of his troops, a very sizable ground force to take out everything that JangBi has. You got to take out the 10 o'clock position pretty easily, and yeah, JangBi's unit count is just not enough to take out Fantasy. He's about half of Fantasy's population right now, actually. Here comes Fantasy, cleaning up the 10 o'clock. All of those probes going to go down. Nowhere to transfer whatsoever, except inside the main. But there are no minerals inside the main, so we'd have to transfer to the natural expansion, where there is no nexus. Dear God. So it looks like this is going to be another attempted recall from JangBi. It's probably his last-ditch effort in this game, because really he has no other reason to stay in this game. Fantasy still only has that 6 o'clock position mining, so Fantasy EMP, but I don't think he caught the Arbiter. No, he did not catch that Arbiter with the EMP. So JangBi, if he does go in for a recall, I think he would be EMP'd again, actually. That Science Vessel probably has enough for 2. But here comes the Dragoons inside the main, actually, for Fantasy. Yeah, there's the GG from JangBi, knowing he's a bit outnumbered in that game. So many tanks out, so he wouldn't have been able to deal with that at all. Fantasy fighting back and making this a series. No 3-0s today, folks. All right, let's move on to the third set.